How's it going, you crazy bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to another video. Today we're making something very unique, chicken fat buns. So let's get in the kitchen and get started. A while ago I posted a bacon bun recipe. We rendered some bacon fat and then we added the bacon bits and the fat to bread dough, creating some super soft and super delicious bacon fat buns. In that video I hinted that one could do the same with chicken skin, and I asked the audience if they would like to see me do it. The answer was an overwhelming yes, so I present to you the chicken fat bun. This recipe is pretty much the same as the other one, with one difference. This one was made with only one fold, which resulted in a slightly simpler method. So let's just get right to it and let me show you how it's done. Starting with the ingredients, we'll need some white bread flour, some whole wheat flour for extra flavor, we'll need some yeast, some salt, honey for a little bit of sweetness, water, a whole egg for the dough, another egg for glazing, and of course we'll need some chicken skin. It might look a little bit weird, but trust me, it will be delicious once we're done. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need a tray with some non-stick paper, we'll need a pan for rendering the chicken fat, we'll need a bowl for mixing our dough in, we'll need scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, and we'll need a brush for glazing. This recipe requires the skin of 6 chicken thighs. It makes 4 buns, so the amount of meat from these chicken thighs should also make for enough filling for the sandwiches. The skin is pretty easy to remove, just rip it off. To remove the bone from the thigh, slice the meat lengthways until you hit the bone, then slice around the bone on both sides and rip it out. Scrape as much meat off the bone as you can, you don't want to waste any. In order to cook the skin and crisp it up properly, we must cut it into small pieces. A sharp knife will be the best tool for the job. The hydration of this recipe is slightly lower than the bacon fat one, and that is because the chicken skin produced a lot more fat than the bacon did. So I had to lower the hydration a little bit to make up for the higher fat content. Okay, let's move on to cooking the chicken skin. Drop it in a medium-sized pan, set it up on medium to high heat, and cook the skin for around 10 minutes. If you are using a stainless steel pan like the one I'm using, the skin will tend to stick, so you want to stir it with a metal spoon once in a while. Also, if it starts curling up, you can flatten it using the spoon. This will ensure that all of it becomes nice and crispy. You can also do this in a non-stick pan, which will be easier because the skin will not stick to it. But I like this little pot, so I keep using it. Okay, once the skin is nice and brown and crispy, it's ready. I drained the fat through a sieve for 2 reasons. One is that I'm going to chop the skin into small pieces later on, and the second is that I wanted to find out how much fat will come out of it. But as I was recording this video, I realized that there is a flaw in my weighing method. So it may look like I got 47 grams of fat, but that is not true, because the bowls don't weigh the same, even though they are the same bowls. It was in fact closer to 30 grams of fat, still a decent amount. Okay, once the skin has cooled down, drop it out on a chopping board and chop it up into small pieces. This will ensure that there is an equal distribution of skin throughout the buns. Okay, now we can finally move on to making the dough. My kitchen was around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so I'm just using water that I've left out at room temperature. I will be cold fermenting this dough, but you can ferment yours at room temperature if you want to. Bulk fermentation at room temperature will take an hour and a half to 2 hours, and you should give the dough 2 folds at equal intervals. But before we do all that, we need to make the dough. In a large bowl, combine the water, the yeast, the salt, the honey, the egg, the whole wheat flour, the chicken fat and the chicken skin. Give it all a good mix, and then finally add the white bread flour, grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. We're aiming for final dough temperature of between 24 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius, which is 75 degrees Fahrenheit to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. If your dough turns out warmer, don't worry about it. But if it turns out a lot cooler, you should not refrigerate it straight after mixing. Leave it out for 30 minutes, then give it a fold and then refrigerate it. A cold dough will have a hard time rising in a cold fridge. But if your dough is at the correct temperature, or slightly higher even, pop it in the fridge right away. Leave it to cool down for 30 minutes, then pull it back out and give it a fold. When cold fermenting, a dough like this only requires 1 fold. And that is because the gluten will have plenty of time to develop, and the flour will have plenty of time to absorb the water. To perform the fold, wet your hands with water, pick the dough up, then fold the sides of the dough down and push them back up into the center of the dough. Keep doing this until you have a nice tight dough ball. Place it back into the bowl, cover it up and pop it in the fridge for the long cold fermentation of around 18 to 24 hours. It is the next day, the dough has puffed up, we can move on to weighing, dividing and pre-shaping. Whenever I'm dividing dough, I like to do pre-shaping step before final shaping. And that is because after dividing, each piece of dough may be made up of several smaller pieces. Shaping the buns only once might not hide all the imperfections. That is why we pre-shape, to make the dough balls nice and uniform in the end. Pre-shaping goes like this. Dust the dough lightly with flour, flatten it out, then fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and finally pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. Once you're all done, cover up the dough balls, leave them to rest for 30 minutes. The long resting time is because of the cold fermentation and because of the tight pre-shaping. We want to give the dough enough time to warm up and relax. If you're going with room temperature bulk fermentation, give it only 15 to 20 minutes, that'll be sufficient. The final shaping works exactly the same way as the pre-shape. Place the dough on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it out, fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle. Once you reach point where you started, flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table and then pick it up to pinch the seam together at the bottom. After final shaping, arrange the dough balls on a non-stick paper lined baking tray. Leave plenty of space between them, they will puff up quite a lot. Dust them lightly with flour so the cling film doesn't stick to them, then cover them up and leave them for the final proof. It may take 1 to 2 hours depending on the temperature of your kitchen. If you went with room temperature bulk fermentation, they should take no more than 1 hour. Make sure you preheat the oven during the final proof to 170 degrees Celsius, 340 Fahrenheit, fan on. If your oven doesn't have a fan, go for 190 Celsius or 375 Fahrenheit. Okay, these bad boys look nice and puffy. If yours don't, just leave them to ferment for a bit longer. I wanted to get the most out of my egg, so I decided to use the double glazing technique. And it goes like this. Brush your buns with egg, leave them to dry for 5 minutes and then brush them again. Glazing them twice creates an extra rich crust. After the second layer of egg glaze, you could also sprinkle some seeds on these buns. Some sesame seeds would work really well here. Okay, let's get these bad boys in the oven. They'll take around 25 minutes to fully bake. Once they are beautifully golden brown all over, they're ready. I'm not quite sure why one of them split open at the top, and I think the same happened when I made my bacon buns. But it definitely doesn't bother me. They'll still taste amazing. And there you have it. That's how I use chicken skin and chicken fat for making bread. Quite unique, a little bit weird, but very tasty. There's only one more dish that I know of, which uses chicken fat rendered from chicken skin. It's a Thai dish called khao man gai, which means chicken fat rice. The chicken fat is added to the rice for cooking, but the chicken itself is actually boiled in a soup. Once the chicken is cooked, it's removed from the soup, sliced and served on top of the rice. The soup is served on the side, and there is a delicious dipping sauce to go with it, made of soy sauce, lime juice, garlic, ginger and coriander, I think. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with bread, but if you ever have a chance, try it, it's amazing. And these buns are also amazing. Definitely worth the extra effort for an interesting result. So what do you think this recipe? And have you tried my bacon buns yet? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.